Growing up, I liked to watch movies of different types: 2D animation, 3D animation, and even some live action ones. Disney was a company that made their way into many people's childhoods, including mine, and just so happened to make pretty good movies in all these mediums. Disney happens to own Pixar, one of the greatest 3D animation studios of all time, and because of this, Pixar was able to produce so many amazing 3D animated films for both kids and parents alike to learn life lessons from, while also tugging in your heartstrings on a stable budget. I first got introduced to their work when I was a little kid. Movies like Ratatouille, Toy Story, The Incredibles, and Up. As I grew up, I was able to watch more of their work like Monsters University, Coco, and the other Toy Story movies that I had missed before or came out over the years. But one of their movies stood out to me, and that movie was Monsters Incorporated, an emotional story that a lot of other people enjoyed too. So naturally, when it took place one day after the original movie, I was thrilled. But when I sat down to watch it, things didn't really amount to the expectations I had about the series in the slightest. I know that a lot more review videos about the series have been mainly positive, and that the series has more episodes to release before a final conclusion can be made, and I am open to a change of opinion. But for now, these are my first impressions of Monsters at Work, and why I'm not personally a fan of the series thus far. If you aren't aware of what Monsters Incorporated is about, I'll give a summary or so about what happens, but if you are familiar with the movie, feel free to skip ahead to the timestamp I have on screen. In an alternate world to ours, monsters are the dominant species, and they run their city's power grid via scream energy, which is collected by scarers, the monsters who go through closet doors to scare kids in their bedrooms. A plot point that goes off the fear of monsters in the closet and or under the bed that kids sometimes have. However, this comes with a catch, because all the monsters have this belief that kids are toxic. And no, not like they could call you really horrible names and more. Monsters believe that a single tap from one kid could put them out of the game for good, so to speak. This system has apparently worked for many years until recently when MI takes place and there's an energy crisis. The movie's two main characters are James P. Sullivan, the top scarer of Monsters Inc., and his best friend Mike Wazowski, who supports Sully every day at work. The two are working to break the all-time scare record while competing against Sully's rival, Randall Boggs. While Sully is staying behind so Mike can treat his girlfriend Celia to dinner, he finds a door that is still out on the scare floor. Much to Sully's chagrin, the human girl inside of the door escapes from it and begins to run loose in the factory before Sully catches her and takes her to Mike and Celia. Sully, while trying to tell Mike about the child escaping, loses sight of her, and the kid begins to scare the monsters with her very presence. Oh, how the turns have tabled, am I right? The Child Detection Agency has to come in and detox the area, but now they're all looking for the little girl. They also don't know that Mike and Sully took her home with them. The rest of the movie is all about trying to return the child, who Sully names Boo, to her home, while also trying to remain undetected from Randall, their boss Mr. Waternoose, and the CDA. The movie ends with Boo going home, Mr. Waternoose and Randall getting in trouble for all the damage that they have done, and Mike and Sully being put in charge of the scare floor, or rather laugh floor now, because they discover during the movie that laughter is 10 times more potent, and they know this because Boo giggles around monster technology. So I guess that solves the energy crisis? And it also sets up the scene for Monsters at Work. Now that the recap of Monsters Inc. is done, I want to focus on the main plot of Monsters at Work. After the scare floor has been converted into a laugh floor, scarers are out and jokesters are in, to quote the series. Tyler Tuskman, the main character of this series, is a fresh graduate straight out of Monsters University, the best scaring school, and the show makes it very clear that he is a really good scarer, even beating Sully's record in a simulator. But when he gets to Monsters Inc. on his first day, his world crumbles around him as he slowly learns about the new change that suddenly happened overnight. Since scarers aren't needed anymore, he is sorted by HR or something into MIFT, the Monsters Incorporated facility team. They've pretty much fixed everything in the building, but they're overall really annoying characters, and I'll explain why I think so later on. Tyler still wants to be on the laugh floor since, his parents literally paid good money for him to go to college and to get a job working for Monsters Inc. as a scarer, and he doesn't want his degree, or presumably his parents' money, to go to waste. Could you imagine going through so much work just to get a degree, which secures a position at the company you want to work with, and then they just go,
Yeah, sorry. No.
I would personally be so mad at that, and I would try to get something as close as possible to the original position I wanted, but I digress. Tyler meets the rest of the goofy gang that is MIFT, consisting of Fritz, the MIFT supervisor, Cutter, a monster who is seen using a blowtorch around 60% of the time or so, Duncan, the employee who is all, I'm gonna be promoted to supervisor. Not you. So basically the jealous type of character who misunderstands Tyler right out of the gate. There is also a character named Banana Bread, but he leaves the team anyway to go work in the Laugh team. Then there is Val Little, a monster that took literally one class with Tyler and thinks that her and Tyler are best friends because of it, and insists this point to everyone around her and Tyler. I'll cover what I dislike about the characters more in their own sections, but for now I'll go on with the overall explanation. The MIF team goes through the process of telling Tyler what their whole purpose is, and let's just say it's fine for one time, maybe the first episode, but they actually go through the process of saying the same song and dance script for the next episode, where Tyler is officially being initiated into MIFT. Tyler's trying to tell the others that this is only temporary until he becomes eligible to work on the laugh floor, but the other main characters in this group don't really hear what he has to say because they're only focused on having him in the gang now. Tyler then tries to prove that he's able to make a kid laugh by going to the laugh floor and going into a door. The kid he's trying to help, though, breaks into fear instead of laughing out loud, and all heck breaks loose. This ends up in the MIF team getting called down to fix all of the chaos, and at the end of the day, Tyler meets Mike and Sully themselves, and says he's sorry for all the damage that he caused in the factory that day, but they forgive him and say that he can learn to be a jokester since he previously majored in scaring. Mike is able to come up with a new slogan for Monsters Inc., which is previously, "We scare because we care," to its "Laughter we're after" to fit the new change to laugh power. The other episode consists of Tyler's initiation ceremony, where they say the same song and dance script of what MIFT is, while giving him a bunch of trials like going through a flaming door and more. One of these trials is very suggestive sounding, to say the least. They keep chanting "wrench the nut, wrench the nut, wrench the nut" for him to be initiated, but I'm not really sure if that was meant to come off like that. Probably not, though. Tyler ends up turning the wrench too far and the nut falls into the sewer. The main character is clumsy too, what do you know? It's almost like he's the cookie cutter definition of what the hero/protagonist is supposed to be like in this type of show. Either way, the much more interesting B-plot of the episode is introduced, with all the jokesters working double shifts and overtime just to power all the city. Mike is especially feeling run down at the moment since he's the top jokester on the laugh floor. Sully notices this, and since Mike doesn't want to stop working, he suggests for Mike to go get some coffee. Mike does so with Sully, yet the coffee didn't exactly work to the fullest extent. And so, the MacGuffin of this B-plot is introduced, the mythical 36.5-hour energy drink. Mike drinks the entire bottle as if his life depended on it, and boom, Mike now is an energy tank for the rest of the episode, and he plans to carry on teaching the comedy class and working on the laugh floor for the rest of the day. We cut back to the mediocre MIFT crew who is trying to help Tyler feel more welcome or something, but it basically translates to the annoying characters being that way for the sake of being quirky. There is this one scene where Tyler is tasked with fixing a malfunctioning laughter canister, which is Duncan pushing him to quit from MIFT, so that he will be the one and only next in line for Fritz's job later, which, to be honest, if I was Tyler, I would leave too if I could. Dealing with all these annoying employees, it just seems like so much, and there are other places that you probably could work at until you get your way up to the position you want, so I don't know why he just didn't leave. Tyler storms off to comedy class, and the rest of the MIFT gang follow. This is the episode where Banana Bread, or rather Winchester, is taken by Miss Flint to become a jokester, and he might have said something useful during that class that the audience might not understand, but mark my words, I think that they might have just taken him in because he sounds like he is making whoopee cushion sound effects when he speaks. So then the kids will laugh more, since fart jokes definitely get all the laughs nowadays. So it's half smart, I guess, but I digress again. But the rest of the episode goes as follows to keep it short. Mike begins to work on the laugh floor again, goes into a busted door even if the door was unsafe to enter, and gets stuck. The MIFT crew arrive to fix it, and Tyler just wants to get the heck out of there. But since the plot calls for one specific person, or rather a monster, for the job, it just so happens to be, drumroll please, Tyler. Who would have guessed? The situation ends up getting fixed, Mike passes out showing the energy drink wasn't as powerful enough for the great Mike Wazowski, and the MIF team finally becomes a little bit closer to Tyler, even after Tyler keeps saying that the job is only a temp position because he wants to become a jokester. So where do I think the rest of the series is going to go? I think that based on the previous efforts that the show has taken so far, it'll eventually end with Tyler becoming a jokester and stepping over that line for the alternate job to what he previously majored in. Along the way, Mift and Tyler will get some character development, and they'll probably choose to become friends of sorts at the end. Tyler might decide to stay in Mift, or he could choose to work in both job types, since the more jokesters the factory has either way, the more power the city gets, even if some of their jokesters could be part-time and working for other departments simultaneously. As of making this video, there are 3 episodes. I just have to get work on that video itself and share my thoughts on the episode. In addition to this, there is another episode coming out on the 21st, so it looks like I have my work cut out for me there. The comedian Gabriel Iglesias makes a guest appearance in this one, as well as Mike's color-swapped rival, so I'm presuming this episode will be all about who the better jokester is in the B-plot with Sully and Mike, but only time will tell. If you liked this breakdown review video, please leave a like, drop a comment, and consider subscribing to the channel. My birthday is on July 31st, and it would mean the world to me if I was able to hit 150 or even 200 subs before then if I'm lucky. What were your thoughts on Monsters at Work? Did you like it or not? Do you enjoy this type of video from me? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Until next time, this is Serenity Moralidor, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!